it's Maureen from the Victorian Studio podcast. I know it's been a while since I've done an actual podcast episode, but today I thought I would show you a short video of my crafting room, which I call my Victorian Studio, where I've combined all of my polymer clay charm creations, the supplies I require for running my Etsy shop all together instead of trying to hunt for them all over the room. So I hope you enjoy seeing what I have to share today. So yeah, this is one side of the room. This used to be my daughter's bedroom, actually. If you've seen online over on Ravelry, that's my knitting area with my stash. And I used to do a lot of scrapbooking, so of course I have this tray of scrapbooking paper that I still have, and I still use once in a while when I make some gift cards and that kind of thing. I don't really do scrapbooking anymore, but I do card making on occasion, so it's still nice to have those. So yeah, so this area, it's actually a cabinet that I made from an old dresser drawers. At the bottom there, it was a long, low style with I think about 6 drawers that I stripped and stained so that I could put my supplies for whatever craft I was doing. And so it made the perfect base for storing these antique file drawers, which I stacked up on top, and they make a great way to store my polymer clay and a bunch of the supplies I use for making my charms. So I thought I would start this tour with something that I acquired very recently. Daughter and I went to an antique show last Friday, and I only purchased 3 things, but one of my most favorite things I found was this 3-tiered rubber stamp holder. And I have a single tier one on my desk where I do keep rubber stamps for my, when I was scrapbooking a lot, when I do card making. And I've never seen a double, and for sure I've never seen a triple tier. So this is called the unit, and it perfectly holds a bunch of my charms. And each level swivels, so that's pretty cool. So it's easy to see the charms on there. And yeah, they just clip on because all of my charms come with a lobster clasp, so that's cool. And my husband says it looks like a Christmas tree, so I guess it does a little bit. So yeah, I was really thrilled with this acquisition, and I love making use of antiques to store or display my craft items here in the studio. So that was a really cool item to find. As you can see, I keep my sculpting tools in a antique. I think it's maybe a sugar bowl, but it is quite old. And what's great about throwing them all in there is when I'm ready to start a new sculpture, I can just grab that and put it on my desk, and then when I'm done, everything goes back in there, and then it's put back up here. So so it's out of the way. And in front of them, I just have some old first attempts at sculpting that I just kind of have on a piece of olive wood there. So yeah, this is some of the first things that I've sculpted. I think I've shown these on the podcast before. This is a pink ombre cake, key lime pie. The first one I did had like a cookie crust, like an Oreo cookie crust, but it was a whole pie with just one piece taken out of it, but it's attached to this little piece of wood. And then I did a little cherry pie, but I really haven't colored the pastry or anything. This was just kind of a first attempt. I made it using a bottle cap. So that was, again, just a try. I made this lettuce. Obviously these things aren't in scale with each other. These were just first attempts at different kinds of items. So this is a lettuce head, and yeah, I'm pleased with how that turned out. You make your own mold and then put the polymer clay in that. And when you roll out your polymer clay, you roll it out so that you have a cane of different shades of green. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to make, but obviously too big to make into a charm. And then I did some of these breads, so that was fun to do that kind of scene. And let's see, recently I made an attempt at making some raspberries, but these are very labor intensive to do, so I don't know if I'll make these into charms. I'll see. But yeah, they take quite a while to create. And then this one I think I've shown on the podcast. This is a very miniature still life of fruit in a fruit bowl. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to do as well. So yeah, when I make stuff for myself, it's nice to kind of have them just on display there. So the other things that I've also put on top of my cabinets are a few other things that I've made. I have a bowl of items that I haven't got for sale right now. I have to either work on them or fix something. But this is my Easter basket that I made last year. I think I showed this on the podcast, with my little chocolate Easter bunny with some foil around him and some Easter eggs, and even the basket's made of polymer clay as well. So that's a lot of fun. So those sit on top of my inventory, my Etsy inventory. And that's what's nice about having an item for sale that's so small. Your inventory doesn't take up a lot of space, that's for sure. So this little cabinet I have had for a while. I used to store my cross-stitch threads in here, and I had a few of them. I think I gave most of them away to my daughter. But I had this one, so it was nice because it was nice and clear, the front, so that I could see at a glance what each drawer held. So yeah, it's nice to have these. So when I get an order from Etsy, I can just pull them out of here, or if I have to do inventory, I can see at a glance, what I've got. So, but like I said, now that I've been doing so many, I needed extra room, so I moved some of them over to this new cabinet. And this cabinet also holds my business cards. So I got these from Vistaprint, which is nice. And then also my card backers. Now I use these mostly for when I'm doing commissions or special orders, but I want the charm to actually be put on a card back, or if I do like a craft show or whatever. And what's nice about these is they also have care instructions for the charms on the back. So again, those are from Vistaprint as well. I found they've been really good for me. You can always check them out when they are having sales, and get a pretty good deal. And then on this bottom drawer right now, I'm keeping a bunch of wire that's already been bent, and these I use for the box that I use for when I varathane my charms. You want to make sure that they hang and they don't sit and pool the coating. So whenever I need something to be hung to dry, I use this box and I use the wires and the hooks in there to suspend them from. So that's where I keep all of those. Okay, so then I thought I would show you these index cabinets that I've been collecting. I've got a fair amount of these around my studio, but I stacked these ones up because they store all the supplies I use for crafting my charms. So these first two hold Sculpey, and I buy them in these bricks, which is easy to store and easy to see which ones I need, and which ones I have on hand. That large block here, that's some translucent, which is nice to have a lot of, especially we can buy it in the large blocks when Michael's has a sale, so that's a good time to use it. And then if I have some clay already mixed up that I haven't used at all. I'll throw it in these bags at the back of the drawers so that I have it for next time. So I just keep them in those. They don't dry out, but you want to keep them in plastic to keep them clean. And here's the other drawer of Sculpey. So I have lots of different colors, which is nice. And yeah, so easy to keep an eye on which ones I need. And underneath the Sculpey, I've got some tools and miscellaneous stuff like molds and dishes and that kind of thing. So under tools, I've got my roller, my acrylic roller, and my silicone mat, and some cutters, foils, and there's my tiles that I use to sculpt on, which is nice because I just bought one tile from Home Depot and then tore the individual hexagons off of the tile itself, and I use those. I can hold them very easily in my hand, and you can bake right on them, which is nice. So I can sculpt right on those tiles very easily. And then miscellaneous drawer, I have some cups to mix epoxy in. I've got some icings, you know, pre-made, left over from other items, so I can reuse them. And then I've got my fake ice. I like how it says not edible, but this I get from a supplier overseas, as well as this is some fake coconut. But you can use this for a few different things. You can color it as well. I've also got, let's see, some sprinkles I use for the donuts and the cupcakes, ice cream cones, that kind of thing. Other toppings. Oh, and I also have the canes that I use for my pies and that kind of thing as well. So you can buy these canes either in these, long canes that you cut up yourself, or you can buy them pre-cut also. So I've tried both of them. I like the long canes that I can cut up myself better, but whatever you're making, you know, they come in handy. Okay, and then down here is the molds and masters that I make. So what I do when I'm making most of my charms is I will make a master out of plain white Sculpey, and I'll either use that master as a reference for making other items, so more of the same thing, or I'll actually use it to make a mold. And these are a bunch of different molds that I have, and I'll show you the material I use for making those molds a little bit later. But the masters I always keep separate so I don't lose them. And even if I do make them into a mold and then unmold them, they always need touch-ups. They always need a special work on them after they've been unmolded, so that they're all nice and clean and have good detail on them. So I just keep all my masters all together. And then the last drawer over here is just some miscellaneous dishes. So I've got cups and glassware, plastic obviously. I do have glass bottles, these little miniature bottles. These are the ones I use for the peaches in preserved peaches. So I have these with the corks, and then I also have a whole bunch of the trays for the muffin trays. Those are nice. A whole bunch of dishes. Now I use a supplier in Thailand, and the first time I used his shop over on eBay, I realized it took about 4 months to get my first order. So once I was happy with the quality of what he had and his price, I then put in a second order and got a whole bunch of these white plates. The first time I did the order, I got a few white plates and then all of these different colored ceramic plates. So yeah, these are really nice, and I'll be using those for more plated charms. But now I have plenty of the white, so it was cheaper just to get them in bulk. And also in bulk, I've also got in here some of the silverware that I would use for the charms, the spoons, the knives, and the forks, and then some twine and my own made gingham fabric for my preserved peaches. So yeah, those are all together in that drawer. And then the last drawer I have here is just some miscellaneous things that I use. I'm going to be doing more charms with magnets, so I've got magnets here and just some tags and that kind of thing that I use for you know, sorting and keeping track of things. So yeah, so those are the drawers. And then I have this vintage chocolate box that holds my liquid Sculpey. So I've got different kinds of liquid Sculpey in here, as well as in the back, those tubes that look like toothpaste. That's the fake whipping cream that I use. I use this on the beer, and I use this for the ice cream, in the ice cream cones. So yeah, this is air drying though. It's not for baking, so, and I get this from a supplier in Japan. You can see that's got Japanese on it. So that stuff's pretty cool. So I always make sure that I add that at the end so that I don't bake it afterwards. Some of these other ones though, they do require baking, and this one is very hard to get where I live here in Canada, so I have to order this online. So I get this from eBay. And this is a fairly small bottle, but it takes a while to go through, but I have just ordered another nice big bottle of this, so I'll be good for Fimo liquid for a while. And this is good for making sauces that you want to be clear, or glazes, like the glaze on the donuts, and that kind of thing. That's what the Fimo liquid is great for. That's oven hardening as well. So that's the liquid Sculpey. And let's see, I'll just go back across here. In the corner of the room here, I've got some of the items that I use for either making molds or doing epoxy work. And I believe I've shown these on my podcast before, but just wanted to mention them. This Easy Mold is a great stuff. It's really easy to use because it's just equal parts of part A and part B silicone putty that you just knead together, and then in half an hour you've got your mold made. It's wonderful. So recently Michael's had a sale with 55% off coupons, so I thought, great, that's the time when I get these more expensive items, because they run in Canada over $30 for a box of these materials. So that's the best time to use those coupons. And unfortunately, the last time they had their 55% coupon, this was sold out. So I ended up trying a different style, and I was not pleased with this at all. It was something I wanted to try because it's made by the same company that I have my epoxy is from, so this amazing Clearcraft. And this epoxy is great. It comes in 2 bottles that are, again, just 50% of part A and part B. Easy to create this epoxy, and to make it in small quantities. So I use this for my jigsaw puzzle pieces, for the beer, for the cocktail drinks. What else? I think that's about it. That's what I make, what I use for that. So this lasts a long time. So you don't want to get it in huge amounts if you're just making small items. So this lasts me for a while. And actually, you shouldn't buy it in large amounts if you aren't using it up, because it does tend to yellow after a while. This is my second box that I've used. The first box I had just a little bit left in, and it in fact did yellow when it was near the end. So I just threw it out, and the rest of it out, and got a new box. So I thought I would try this company's molding material, since this was sold out at Michael's, but I was not impressed with this at all. So I would hesitate to recommend it, at least for making the kind of molds that I need for my charms. As you can see, it comes in two parts. There's this thicker liquid, and it's a larger bottle of that and a very small bottle of an activator. So, but you need 10 to 1 parts. So when you're using in such small quantities that I need for making charms, this was really, first of all, very difficult. So I think the last time I mixed it up, I had like 25 grams of this larger material, and I had to measure out 2.5 grams of the activator. So I wasn't thrilled with it because it is very, very liquid when it's mixed up. So you need a container to hold that. So you'd need a mold to hold the material before you even put your item in. And when you put your item in, you have to suspend it. You have to secure it somehow so it just doesn't fall to the bottom. So that was a pain, and that's why I like this easy mold. This I could just mix up 1 to 1, equal parts, and when it's mixed, I could just place it on my silicone mat for it to cure, and in half an hour it was done. This takes like 24 hours to cure. It was ridiculous. So, and when I unmolded my two items that I did a test with, they came out with bubbles below them. Now, you might say that maybe I didn't wait long enough for it to cure or to like use it before I put the item in, but it was bubbles that were trapped underneath the item that I was molding. So the sides were fine, but I was not impressed with this at all. So for my use, I do not recommend this, but you know, maybe for other things people use this and get great results out of it, maybe. Obviously I have to keep it because I've opened it and used some of it. I doubt very much I'm going to be using very much of it again though. So I was so happy then when I went back to Michael's then a few weeks later and found more of these in stock, because I was afraid for a while that maybe they weren't carrying this anymore. So it was great to find that again. So also on this cabinet, as I mentioned before, I also have all the supplies that I use for my mailing underneath here for filling Etsy orders. Oh, before I forget, this is also where I keep my pastels that I use for coloring my charms. I have two different makes of pastels, which I love. So these soft pastels are perfect for coloring charms, so I use those quite a bit. Also, this is where I keep the mailers and the boxes and all the other things that I put in when I send out orders from my Etsy shop. So if you order from me, everything will come in a little box, but before I place it into the little jewelry box, I also have down here some pre-cut bubble wrap. And I wrap every charm in a piece of bubble wrap, and then I'll tape it either with regular tape, or I purchased some of this washi tape, but sometimes it doesn't stick so well. I mean, it's very pretty and everything. I love the look of it, but it sticks to itself better than it sticks to just the plastic bubble wrap. So sometimes I'll wrap it in that, and sometimes I will just use plain tape. But every charm is wrapped in this bubble wrap, and then it's placed in one of these jewelry boxes. And the stickers I got again from Vistaprint. And inside each box is this fiber fill. So I pull that apart so I have it on the top and on the bottom, so all the charms are protected during shipping. And if I can, once I wrap up the charms, if I can fit more than one in here, I will do that, so long as it's safe. And if I have more than one box will hold, well, then I'll of course use a second box or a third box sometimes. And all of those boxes fit really great inside these padded mailers. So I bought these in bulk as well. and they work great. And also I like them because they have a self-sealing, and they're also, if I can open it here for you, they also have bubble wrap inside them, so they also protect really well. So yeah, I found that using all of those are great for shipping out orders from my Etsy shop. And every box is covered, or is secured with some twine. I took some twine one day and I was just pre-cutting a bunch of links, so that's what's hanging there, is just some twine for wrapping around the boxes. And it makes it easy. When I get an order, I can just pull it out of the drawers, you know, do my picks, get out the bubble wrap, the boxes, the envelopes, some twine, and then you know, add all the extras that I put in, and then send it off to the post office. So yeah, it's become very easy to fill orders now that I've kind of got it down. After a while, you kind of get very proficient at doing that. So also on the bottom of these shelves, I also wanted to show you, besides the cut bubble wrap here, I have these old sewing table drawers. So I also keep my Varathanes in here. I have different ones. I have, this is the sealer that I use for all my charms. So try to do this one-handed here. I have either gloss, satin, or matte. So that's what I use to seal them all. And that is also my pasta machine. So if I'm using you know, sheets of Sculpey, that's great for rolling and getting thin sheets made. And also I have some below there, some other crafting things that I got for doing scrapbooking and card making, but I do use it for this craft as well, and that's a bunch of alcohol inks. I use those actually to color the jigsaw puzzle pieces with, or the beer, or the other, like the cocktail drinks and that kind of thing. I'll use alcohol inks for as well. So these are just the Tim Holtz, I believe they're Adirondack alcohol inks. Tim Holtz, I believe, is like a Ranger, makes these, and they come in a variety of colors as well. So these work really well with epoxy. So yeah, so those are good. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed seeing where I keep my crafting supplies for making these charms and for mailing out orders for Etsy. I will obviously have a link to my Etsy shop in the description box below, so if you'd like to take a look at what I've got for sale. I will be adding to that very soon. I am working on a couple of new designs I'll be adding to the shop, as well as in the next day or so, or even by the time I get this up, I'll be announcing a new sale over there, so you might want to check it out. So until I record again, thank you so much for stopping by the studio. I hope you had a good time seeing what I had to share today. And take care, everyone. And thanks again for visiting. All the best. Bye-bye.